Hey, what's up? Stephanie, the English coach here from EnglishFulltime.com. In this video, I want to tell you 5 things that you must accept immediately if you want to improve your English. Now, I'm going to give you some tough love here. I'm going to tell you some truths that you might need to set you free from whatever it is that's going on inside of you and holding you back from improving your English, okay? So bear with me. Here we go. Okay, the first thing is about mistakes. You will make mistakes, and that is okay. That is part of the process. That is necessary. And it's like I tell my kids all the time, mistakes are fine as long as you learn the lesson, because mistakes are how we learn. You actually cannot learn without making mistakes. And guess what? The lessons that stay with us the longest are often because of mistakes that we've made. So it's an opportunity to grow. You have to think about it like that. Mistakes are an opportunity to grow. And don't feel ashamed or bad or sorry for my English or anything like that, because you're learning, and absolutely nobody expects your English to be perfect. So you should probably release yourself from that if that's what you're expecting of yourself, because you're holding yourself to a standard that no one else is holding you to. So relax, enjoy the ride, make mistakes, make them on purpose if you want. If you have been held captive for years by this fear of making mistakes, today is the day where you get to go, you know what? I finally recognize that this is really bad and this is holding me back, and it's not even realistic and it's not good. So today I'm going to make as many mistakes as I want, okay? Just to sort of get over that fear of making mistakes. And it's fine. It's fine. You're learning and you're improving, and that is what matters. Now, obviously, with saying this, I am not advocating for being totally okay with poor English and bad grammar and poor pronunciation. No, of course not. That would be silly. What I'm saying is, give yourself some grace throughout the journey, because it's hard and you will make mistakes. It's inevitable. So what are you going to do? Beat yourself up over mistakes that you make? Or just be like, oops, made a mistake. Okay, learn the lesson and move on. Okay. Yes, we want to improve our pronunciation. Yes, we want to improve our grammar, increase our vocabulary, etc., etc., etc. But you don't have to feel bad along the way while you're working toward those goals. Just lighten up. Enjoy it. And by the way, I wish somebody would have said this to me back when I was learning Spanish and I was a complete perfectionist and I felt terrified of making mistakes. All right. This is what I wish somebody would have told me. Okay. The next thing you need to hear and accept immediately if you want to improve your English is that you have to practice. Language is not meant to be used alone. It's a tool that we use for connecting and communicating with other people. So you have to practice. And I don't just mean workbooks and worksheets and homework and journaling privately and like all of that. Yes, there's a time and a place for that. But at some point, you really have to start speaking with other people, connecting, chatting, getting connected. Okay. If you need help with this, I highly recommend you download my guide for connecting with native English speakers. I give you some really awesome strategies, things that you can start doing today to connect with native English speakers online, because we have the internet. You don't have to live in a country full of native English speakers to connect with native English speakers. In fact, there are thousands of immigrants here in the US where I live that don't ever connect with native English speakers, even though they are surrounded by us. Okay. So keep that in mind. You need to practice. You need to connect with other people, and don't wait for your English to be good. Don't say like, okay, well, when my English is finally like this or like that, or, have this image of perfect English in your head. Don't think I will wait for that moment so that I can practice. No. Practicing is the thing that will help you achieve that end result that you're dreaming of. Trust me, I know about this, okay? I've been in your shoes. It is time to practice. And if you're ready to use your English actively, then I also highly suggest that you get on my email list at EnglishFulltime.com so that you know when our programs are open for enrollment, because they're not open 24/7. And we really help students use their English actively so they can get massive breakthroughs with their fluency, their vocabulary, their pronunciation, you name it. All right? So I will see you there. Okay, the next really harsh truth here is that some people will be really critical of you and your English throughout your journey, okay? And it may even only happen to you once, and it may not even be something that someone says. Why? Because sometimes we can feel energy. We can feel a bad vibe. It can be as simple as a look. Somebody looks at you like, why did you say that? And all of a sudden your heart shatters and you just want to crawl into a hole and die. I'm speaking about it like this because I know, because I've been there, okay? So it sucks, all right? People can be mean, people can be rude, and we kind of just have to learn to let that go. And a phrase that I like to say is water off a duck's back. You know how birds, because of the structure of their feathers, when water gets poured on them, whether it's rain or whatever, it just slips right off of them, okay? No friction whatsoever, just as if it were never on them, okay? Like water off a duck's back. That is what I tell myself when I don't want to be bothered by something and I just have to let it go. So if someone is critical of you, especially if it's happening constantly in your life, which is not cool and not okay. And by the way, you can set boundaries with people and say, excuse me, I don't like that you said that, or I don't appreciate that, or please don't do that. Don't say that to me, etc. Whatever. You can set boundaries, but also a little zen, like water off a duck's back. You know what? I'm not even going to let this get to me. And also bear in mind that sometimes we interpret things incorrectly based on our own perspective or our own fear. So someone might look at you like this when you speak English and you're thinking, oh my gosh, like I made a mistake, or they're judging me, God forbid. And maybe that person suddenly remembered that they forgot to pick up their kid from school. And they're like, oh my gosh, I'm 2 hours late for picking up my kid from school. Okay, that's a totally random example. But you know what I'm saying? Like we misinterpret things all the time. I'm again speaking from experience. As hard as I try to understand people and understand what their intentions are and their motives are, I misunderstand people, you misunderstand people, we misunderstand looks and gestures and things because we are not in the next person's brain understanding everything that they're thinking in that exact moment. So give yourself some grace and give other people some grace and just let it go. If you have a bad negative interaction with someone, and especially if they outright say something mean or rude to you, let it go. People can be mean and it sucks, but what are we going to do, right? Just choose not to be like that yourself. That's all we really can do. And the last thing I want to say about this is the reason why this is so important to be able to let it go is because if you don't, it will steal your confidence, and then it will create and build anxiety within you, anxiety around speaking, anxiety around sharing your ideas, and so much more. So the best thing that you can possibly do is let it go. Remember, like water off a duck's back, just breathe, let it go, move on with your day, tell someone about it if you have to, and then forget about it, because if not, like I said, it will hold you back in so many ways. And we don't need to replay in our minds the bad things that we experience. And a lot of people do this. And so it's like you're living through that micro trauma again and again and again and again. So sometimes it's also good to just make an effort to literally forget about it. Tell your brain, nope, I'm not going to allow you to think about that again, because the brain sometimes doesn't know the difference between reality and imagination. So when we imagine something, our body will start responding as if that thing were actually happening. You'll relive that experience. Your hands will start sweating. You'll start feeling angry. So breathe, water off a duck's back, move on. Next, I want to say a couple things about confidence. When you compare yourself to others, I know we say don't compare yourself to others, yet do you do it? Because I know I'm even guilty of this, and I even did it for years in a different aspect of my life, and it was completely destroying me, because instead of thinking about my own life, my own progress, the things that were going well for me, I was comparing myself to other people and feeling bad about my own success, my own progress. And that's silly, because I'm not them, and I also don't know what struggles they have going on behind the scenes, right? So we have to learn to really take care of ourselves, like the way that you would take care of a child. You have your own inner child, right? So be gentle with yourself, be loving with yourself, support that inner child that you have, and be your own best cheerleader. And don't worry about what the next person is doing, because again, that can very quickly steal your confidence. Next, when it comes to confidence, please don't feel like your English has to be perfect because there's no such thing. I am a native English speaker. I have been speaking English all my life. I cannot tell you the amount of times I will mispronounce something or say something grammatically incorrectly. Okay, just a couple weeks ago, I posted a video on Instagram teaching a few idioms, and I actually taught an idiom incorrectly. And I had no idea because I have been using it incorrectly my entire life, and I don't even know how or when that started. So I took the video down and I was like, well, I don't want to teach things incorrectly. So I was really glad to be corrected, but that's an example of how there's no such thing as perfect English. And I didn't beat myself up over it. I was actually very surprised and curious. Like, how is it possible that I grew up in the US, I'm a native English speaker, and I've heard this phrase used all my life and I never knew what it meant? And I'll tell you what that phrase was just because it's funny. I was talking about food and how you eat something and it goes right through you. And I thought that that meant you eat something and then like an hour later you're hungry again, because it went right through you. It didn't fill you up. And so that's what I taught. And 2 people from the US commented on my video saying, it doesn't actually mean what you think it means. It means that you ate something and it gave you diarrhea. And I'm like, whoa, okay. I did not know that. And I've been using this phrase all my life. I've been saying, oh my gosh, like I ate a burrito and it went right through me. And now I realize as a 34-year-old, all this time people thought that I was saying it gave me diarrhea, and I never meant that. So anyways, that was hilarious. And this is how we have to think about our English. Enjoy the fact that you understand the language. Enjoy the fact that you can communicate with others. And when you make a mistake, don't let it make you feel small. It's just a mistake. Like, it's not that serious. We all make mistakes. I make mistakes, okay? And I want you to feel like this is okay. However, I will say, again, going back to the fact that people are mean, sometimes people will try to make you feel small because they're mean. And if they catch you making a mistake, especially if you're in an argument online with people, oh my goodness, this happens all the time. In fact, sorry, more stories. In fact, I just came across a post like this the other day where there were hundreds of comments and people were arguing back and forth and they were being so mean to each other. And anytime somebody would make a little grammar mistake or forget to add a period or whatever, before the next person would even comment on the content that they were saying, what they were mentioning, they would belittle them for using the language incorrectly. Like, why don't you try to learn English first before, talking about this subject? And it's just so silly. It's like, you guys, people make typos. I make typos. People also make mistakes. Like, why are we getting on our high horse here and pretending like we're better than the next person because you didn't make the mistake this time? The other person did. But I guarantee everybody makes mistakes in languages, and it's like we need to get over this already and not act like we think we're better because our languages skills are somehow better. Anyways, okay, bit of a tangent, but getting back on track. The last thing I want to say about confidence is that it's totally possible to learn a skill confidently. You don't have to be good at a skill to be confident. You can learn with confidence. So for example, last year I started doing horse riding lessons, and it was a childhood dream of mine, something I always wanted to do. And finally I got the opportunity to do it. And so I said, okay, I'm going to do this. I can't wait. But the reality is, it has been kind of hard. There are so many times where it's like, I'm just not getting it. My body is not responding the way that I want it to, or I don't understand what I'm supposed to do or how I'm supposed to do it, or I forget something that the instructor already told me 3 different times. Why? Because it takes time to learn, because I'm not superhuman. And it's fine. And I'm having so much fun, and I'm still doing the lessons and I'm improving. I can look back and I have improved so much. So that's incredible. I am not an expert, but I'm learning and I'm doing a good job and I'm trying really hard. So I can be proud of that, and I can be proud of my accomplishments, and I can be confident while I'm learning, even though I keep messing up continuously. That's what learning is about. Okay, the last thing that I'm going to say is about failure. The only way you could ever possibly fail at English is by giving up and just saying, okay, I'm not going to try anymore. This is too hard. This is too difficult, whatever. If you give up, then yeah, you're not going to improve. You're going to get stuck. You're going to have the level that you have for the rest of your life, or you may even regress a little bit and forget some of what you know and not have as much fluency, not have as much vocabulary, because it's like we say, if you don't use it, you lose it. Now, this doesn't mean that you have to be aggressively trying to improve your English every single day, every single week. We need balance in life. And especially if you're a mom like I am with 2 small kids, oh my goodness, it is so hard to have time in the day for things like language learning, especially if you don't need it for survival. Okay, when you need it for survival, it becomes a little bit more important, gets higher on the priority list. Okay, however, you're not failing if you're still trying, even if you're making progress little by little and trying here and there. Now, a thought that I want to leave you with is this: all it takes to improve your English is the right methods, the right mindset, and the right material. And if you are struggling with any of that and you feel like your English is not improving, sign up for my email list and you will get notifications from me personally when our programs are open for enrollment. And these programs are really awesome. We've helped thousands of students around the world. I would love to work with you too. And it's nice because it's structured learning. So it's not super random here like on YouTube with just random videos and random lessons. There's structure, objectives, things we're working on helping you achieve. You get to study and work with other people. It's a lot of fun. So if any of that sounds intriguing, come to English Full Time, and I cannot wait to see you in one of our programs. That's it, and I hope to see you in another video. Bye.